Hello, we are part of the group South America, and today we will be talking about the different countries in South America and how they produce energy. Brazil is the largest country in South America. In 2012, the total population of Brazil was estimated at approximately 199 million. In 1998, Brazil accounted for 1.9% of the total world energy usage. In that time, they consumed 303 billion kilowatts. There are many different industries in Brazil. Along with car manufacturing, there are other industries like food processing and the production of aircrafts, computers, tobacco, footwear, clothing, and cotton textiles. There are also a large amount of iron and steel industries. About 65% of workers have jobs in the tertiary sector, 20% in agriculture, and 15% in industry. The line voltage standards in Brazil change depending on where you live in the country. In some towns, for most of them anyways, have a single phase voltage of 110 volts, while the larger towns have a single phase voltage at 127 volts. And in the smaller towns, the three phase voltage was a maximum of 220 volts, while the larger towns have approximately 380 volts three phase voltage. But they all run at 60 hertz. The country produces large amounts of hydroelectric power and is quickly moving towards self-sufficiency in oil production. Brazil has a large steel industry, so imports large amounts of coal. There are 4.8 billion barrels of proven oil reserves in Brazil. The country produces about 1 million barrels of oil per day and consumes about 1.7 million barrels per day. There are 5.6 trillion cubic feet of natural gas reserves. Brazil produced 200 billion cubic feet of natural gas in 1996 and consumed 205 billion cubic feet. Even though natural gas only accounts for 3% of the total energy consumption, this percent is expected to increase. There are 3.1 billion short tons of coal reserves in Brazil. Due to the lack of quality of the coal, Brazil imports a large amount of coal from the United States and Australia. Brazil's net electricity generation in 1996 was 285.7 billion kilowatts an hour, and the consumption of net electricity was 303 billion kilowatts an hour. The main source of electrical energy comes from hydroelectric power, which provides 95% of the country's electrical power. One such complex is the Curie Hydropower Complex, situated in the lower Tocantins River in Curie, Brazil. It ranks as the largest hydro complex in Brazil, and it ranks as the fourth largest hydroelectric power plant in the world. The 8,370 megawatt power plant was built in two phases and has been producing power since 1984. Construction of the 5.5 billion hydropower project started in 1975. The first phase was completed in 1984. It involved construction of a concrete gravity dam, 78 meters in height and 12,500 meters in length. 12 generating units with a capacity of 330 megawatts each and two 25 megawatt auxiliary units. Construction of the second phase to add a new powerhouse was started in 1998 and completed in late 2010. It involved installation of 11 generating units with 370 megawatt capacity each. The power station delivers electricity to the Belém town and the surrounding areas.
Argentina is a fairly populated country with a total population of around 37 million. If we were to compare that to Canada, which has 35 million people, we see that Argentina needs to produce a large amount of power to service its residents. Argentina creates power with a 50 Hz frequency. Single-phase power is 220 volts, and three-phase is 220/380 volts. Argentina produces electricity in many different ways, including hydroelectric, nuclear, gas, and coal. Presently, hydroelectric power is the largest producer of electricity in Argentina, mainly because of the amount of water sources available. Recently, Argentina signed a nuclear energy deal with Russia, which will help Argentina to expand its nuclear industry, which at this point generates only about 1,005 megawatts of power.
Ecuador is a small city located in South America, between Colombia and Peru, and its capital is Quito. The boundary distribution and the transmission of energy in Ecuador, it's close to the power distribution here in Ontario. The power generator first passed through a step-out transformer, which steps up to 230 kV to 500 kV and transported along the country to different stations. At these stations, the industry voltage that's normally used in Ecuador is 220 volts and 374 volts, and it's 110 volts. It's only residential use, which also includes with the 60 hertz normal frequency. And there are many sources that they use to generate power. The main source is water. They have around 16 hydro plants, and there have 9 new projects that will also connect with this chain of another hydroelectrics that they have already there. One of them is the Coca-Cola Sinclair, which is able to generate 1500 megawatts, and it's only 75% completed as of today. The population in Ecuador is 16 million of people, and which is quite amount for this small country. The main generators are also located close to the jungle where most of the rivers are, and they are creating one more using the wind as to generate power in a city called Loja. They will only generate 12.7 megawatts.
Between Argentina, Brazil, and Ecuador, there are many similarities in power generation and manufacturing. One very obvious similarity is the major source of power generation, which is hydroelectric. When I think of South America, I think of the rainforest. So it should come as no surprise that water generates most of the continent's electricity. One very odd difference I found was that Brazil and Ecuador were running on 60 hertz, and Argentina ran on 50 hertz. For places being that close together, I assume that they would maintain the same frequency. While there are major hydroelectric projects in Brazil and Ecuador, Argentina is focusing more on nuclear energy for the future. One major industry that all of South America seems to be involved in is automobile manufacturing. Brazil has the 4th largest hydroelectric plant in the world at 8,370 megawatts. This hydroelectric plant began construction in 1975 and was not finished until 2010, 35 years later. South America's growing manufacturing industry and growing population increases its needs for power generation. Many new projects are focused on nuclear and hydroelectric power generation, while not as much is focused on renewable resources such as solar and wind. Argentina signed a deal with Russia to expand its nuclear industry, while Brazil and Ecuador are in the process of building many more hydroelectric plants. Possibly these countries will look more seriously towards solar and wind when every river has dams on it.
The main similarity with each country, like Trevor mentioned, was hydroelectric power, which is a renewable energy source. I find it interesting that 2 out of 3 of these countries are looking to expand their non-renewable resources. Like it was mentioned, Argentina is looking to expand its nuclear energy, while in Brazil, they are planning on expanding their coal and gas industries for the future. Since these two countries are basically running off of renewable energy, you think they would be investing into more renewable resources such as wind and solar energy. I believe they are looking into these alternative energies because both Brazil and Argentina are in the car manufacturing business, and I believe these non-renewable energies are being used more for supplying the factories used in their automobile businesses. And with these non-renewable resources, they have a much easier time in doing so. Another similarity between these three countries is they all use coal as a way of producing energy. Brazil and Argentina also share resources of gas to provide energy, while Ecuador does not. But besides that, all three countries have different ways of producing power, such as Brazil using oil, while Argentina is using nuclear power, and Ecuador has more of a focus on thermal energy. Ecuador even has a wind power station that helps produce energy, while Brazil and Argentina only have one way of producing renewable energy. Something I also noticed was the phase voltages used between the three countries. Both Ecuador and Brazil use 110 volts for single phase, while Argentina uses 220 volts for single phase and three phases, while Brazil and Ecuador only use 220 volts for three phase power, but both also use 380 volts for three phase power. This right here is our reference page. It contains all the websites we use to gather our information for the poster. This concludes our presentation on South America, and I hope you enjoyed it.